Hi everybody, it's Dr. Vardy here. I am getting ready to do a quick video to walk you through our class syllabus. So this is going to be a little bit of a deep dive where I'm going to talk through every section of the syllabus and explain things as I go. If you already watched the course intro video, you saw where I pointed out where the syllabus can be found. You can download it, you can print it out. This is going to be a slower talk through the details of the syllabus. So if you remember in our welcome video where I gave an overview of the course, I didn't really get into the syllabus. I showed you where it was, yada, yada, yada. Now I'm going to talk you through it. I'm going to try to get this done in no more than 10 minutes. Whew, fingers crossed. All right, so I'm going to switch over to my screen share view and we will talk through the syllabus. Alrighty, so just like I showed you in our course overview video, here we have the syllabus. I'm going to expand this view so that we can look at it together on one screen. All right, so you have some basic information here. Obviously, this is my name. This is my in-person office number. I will not be here very much this summer because all of our teaching is being done remotely. So the best way that you can get a hold of me is, like we talked about before, via Skype. We can talk via email. There's the chat within our Canvas course. There's a lot of different ways that you can get a hold of me outside of the office. Now, the Department of English description for English 1010, I just want to highlight that this is going to prep you for English 1020, which is our first year writing course here at Wayne State. So there are some essential building blocks that we're going to talk about. Specifically, we're going to talk about college level reading and writing practices and reflection as a part of that writing process. You guys can read through this in a little more detail on your own, but I just want to point out the course placement and the undergraduate bulletin description. So this is just some of the official language that helps you recognize that you're in the right class. Now, I do want to spend a couple of minutes here on our course learning outcomes. These are what's going to help us stay on target throughout the semester. We are going to focus on reading as one of our learning outcomes. Not that you don't know how to read, but developing reading strategies to work with college level materials and using analysis as a reading strategy. We're going to think about writing in two distinct ways. First of all, the actual product. So obviously you want to be able to write organized, clear college level papers by the end of this course. But we also want to think about our writing process. How do you go about writing a college level paper? We're going to talk about not just multiple drafts, using revision, feedback, but also thinking about rhetorical features like thinking about your audience. We're going to have the goal that we are going to grow in reflecting, both as a process to help us with our writing, so evaluating how did that go, what could have gone better, what do I need to work on next time, and also in terms of learning. So reflective writing can help us plug into our own metacognition about what it is we're learning. Both of these ways that reflection is used are super helpful to writing. And then technology use is our final learning outcome. Navigating all these web-based platforms is going to be especially important as you guys gear up for the fall and not knowing exactly how our courses are going to go down. It's a good bet a lot of your coursework is going to be done online, just like you're doing right now in the Bridge program. So getting used to those technologies. You guys do have a copy, or you will be getting a copy of The Warrior Writer, which has some paper copies of the text that we're going to be working with, but a lot of the texts are also provided via PDF or a link to the Wayne State Library. Having a writing handbook is not a bad idea. It's not a requirement, but I recommend it. Okay, so let's talk about the online course environment. Not just, don't let your computer know you're in a hurry. That's tip number one. But tip number two is just thinking over your daily use, your daily access to this course and all of the Apex courses that you're working with. You definitely need daily access, not just to a computer or a phone, but to the internet. So make sure that you have a hotspot, that your Wi-Fi is working, that you work out if you need to share a computer or if you need to have a quiet space to use your computer. We'll talk more about that in a second. Google Drive is fine for composing your stuff, but you need to be able to download it into a doc file, so a .doc or a .docx file, in order for me to be able to put comments on it in Canvas. And just make sure you have a plan B, right? What if something goes wrong? What if your cat swipes your laptop into the toilet? Or whatever. I don't know your life, but stuff happens. So what's your plan B? Do you have computers that you can buy? There's Chromebooks available through Wayne State. Just thinking about those technological issues should they come up. Always, always, always just talk to your advisor about it, right? Okay. So now here's where we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the online classroom. In my other video, I was kind of giving you a show and tell of Canvas and how things will work in our course shell, giving you guys a feel for this online classroom that we're going to be working in together. Here's where I want to talk about your approach. So not just like, can you navigate in Canvas? Because by now, probably everyone has some familiarity with it. But just in general, I have a reputation as a teacher who keeps things snapping. I set a rigorous pace for all of my classes. English 1010 and the Apex programs, no exception. So if you know Star Wars, you know that there's this really famous scene where Luke thinks like, oh no, this is totally different. I was moving stones with the Force and now you want me to lift my X-Wing fighter? And Yoda says, it's not different, it's the same thing. And that's kind of how I approach, think of me as Master Yoda, but with far less wrinkles. I want to approach our online classroom as if it's not really that different than a face-to-face classroom. Now, I know what you're thinking, Nicole, it is totally different. First of all, we're not even in a classroom. But here's the thing. I'm thinking about our course Canvas site as a digital classroom. And for me, my teaching approach is not going to be different. I'm going to try to use multiple methods, different modalities to keep us engaged in the coursework. And so I'm also going to expect that you guys are engaged, just like I would expect that in our face-to-face classroom. So just know that I have planned these activities specifically to be online, and thinking through the things that I wanted us to be covering step by step by step. So one of the big takeaways about writing, we said writing is a process, and it's really complicated and it can be really overwhelming. But if you break it down into tiny steps along the way, it's not that overwhelming. If you just do step A, step B, step C, step D, boom, you have a draft. And that's how I've designed all of our activities. So think about that when you are looking at our course shell and all of these materials, that they're all here on purpose. And I've outlined all of these activities. And I try to also consider the fact that since we're all online, asynchronously for the most part, it's going to get wild sometimes. It might get a little messy. Just to survive, you will totally survive in this class if you just set aside time each week to do all of the material for that week. Watch the videos, read the texts, do the writing assignments, okay? On average, there's like between 3 to 5 smaller writing assignments that are designed to build towards the larger project. So I have suggested a 4-day schedule. My schedule runs Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. And you'll see that when you look at the course schedule. I showed you that in another video, but I try to plan it so that if you do the schedule, it spreads out the work. There's not too much work on one day that way. But, like sometimes you might have to just do a couple of days all at once. That's okay. All weekly written assignments must be posted by each due date by midnight that night. That's it. That's all you got to know. It doesn't matter when in the day you do it. If you do 3 days worth of work in one day, I won't know. Just to survive, you just need to be hitting your due dates, right? But in order to thrive in this class, you want to keep up with that schedule. You want to keep in regular communication with me. You email me, post to the class discussion board, set up a Skype appointment with me. Just going through the motions and posting things when they're due, you will survive this class. No question. But if you want to thrive in this class, you want to think about how all of these projects are little tiny steps building towards that final project. You want to think about how this online classroom is leading you through. So you'll want to follow that schedule as best you can. Do the Monday stuff on Monday, the Wednesday stuff on Wednesday, the Friday stuff on Friday, You get the drift? If you do that, things will not only be a lot more manageable for you, but I think you'll be able to see how all the assignments build toward each other. And that is going to make things, I think, a lot easier. Speaking of, since we've been talking about access to the internet, following the schedule, make sure you have space to work, right? Like these little tiny kittens who are doing the cutest game of Tetris you've ever seen. Do you have space to work on this class? Definitely figure this out. In my experience, it helps to have at least one go-to spot. If not, maybe a couple that you can kind of like toggle between when you're working on a writing project. It helps to be able to change locations, but it also, the number one thing is to be in a spot where you can think. Which is why I generally hide from my children when I'm doing these teaching videos because I need to be able to think so that I can talk to you clearly. So make sure that you have quiet, make sure that you have something to write with, both online and on paper if possible. Make sure that you keep everything kind of organized in the same space. Also, time to work. I totally understand being busy and having other things on your plate other than one's education. Hell, I got my entire PhD while I had 2 children and was working full-time as a teacher. So it's not easy, but it can be done. Just heard my chime that there's another email in my inbox. But just make sure that you are setting aside time both for the things that you have to do, work, childcare if you need to do that, family stuff, life stuff, education stuff. Make sure you have time to work on this course. Think about it. I would see you in the normal Apex face-to-face environment. I'd see you for about 4.5 hours a week. And then I would assign you like an hour or so of homework every night. Maybe less, depending. So just think about that. That's how I've approached designing this course so that you have approximately 6 to 8 hours of work to do throughout the course of a week, right? That's almost a part-time job. So think about that. Think about the amount of time, if you do work, that you devote to your job. Think about the amount of time that you need to devote to this class. Definitely just talk to me too if things are getting hard to juggle. I am totally available, open to negotiation if you need to ask questions about something so that you can get it clear in your mind. That's a side note. We'll talk about that more in a second. But just make sure you're setting aside the time that you need for this class. All right, so let's talk about the course, the writing that we're going to do. It's a writing class. So if you get to the point where you're like, there's a lot of writing to do, I'm going to say, I know, right? Isn't that great? Because it's a writing class. And then you're going to just give me bad looks probably. So regular assignments each week, pretty much, or on the reg for each project, I'm going to ask you to do annotations. I'm going to ask you to do at least 2 sets of annotations per project. Handwritten annotations. These can be printed. They should be handwritten. And in the assignment you'll see, I want a picture of it. I want a scan of it because I want to see your little handwriting on there. And then we'll also do a perusal annotation, which is a collaborative digital annotation, which I think is going to be really fun. It's going to be like all of us in a document together, kind of like being able to discuss the reading in perusal. There's always going to be a chat check-in each week, and the chat check-ins are a way for us to kind of like chat. Duh, Nicole, because that's what they're called. But like think about when you're in the classroom, like before class gets started, after, or maybe you like somebody mentions something and you kind of have a little chat about it. Additionally, the chats are going to be there to keep us accountable with watching the videos. So I will be tossing out the chat check-in prompt in my weekly instructor videos. So just a note that you have to watch the video. You don't know where the prompt is going to get thrown out, but that will help spur on our conversation in the chat. Okay, brace yourself. Our major projects, we have 4 basically, with lots of little steps leading up to each one. We're going to do a summary. We're going to do a response paper. We're going to do an analysis paper. And then we're going to do a reflective portfolio at the end of the semester. As we go through, I'll be assigning you small assignments along with those regular annotations and check-ins to help keep you on track. So you just keep up. My whole thing with this class is if you just play along, if you just do the assignments, you will be fine, right? Because if you're giving it an honest effort and doing these small assignments that I have designed, I did it on purpose so that you could be working towards these bigger projects, it will stand you in good stead and your bigger projects will be stronger. So just think about that. Also, I'm going to be throwing out points for peer review, for multiple drafts. So rough drafts and giving really good feedback to each other, that's all baked into your point total. And I do that on purpose because multiple drafts and giving and receiving feedback is so important to the writing process. It actually helps make writing stronger. We'll talk more about that when we get to our first peer review, but I'll just leave it there. Points for all aspects of the writing process. You can see the point breakdown here. I like a nice round number. I like math, but not that much, so I got to keep it in a like whole number territory. So 1,000 points. University grading scale, you can check that out. Super important in terms of formatting. We're just going to use common, generic, college level formatting for your papers. MLA format, please. If you don't know what that is, we can talk about it. I would go to the OWL at Purdue. It has a great overview of MLA style and formatting. But basically, 1-inch margins, 12-point font, title, MLA works cited page. We'll review that if that sounds a little shaky to your brain. All right, last little bit here. I know I'm probably going over my time, but I just want to make sure that we chat about some of this stuff. Course policies. Late work policy is, thank you for not turning in late work. I mean, seriously though, guys, our class is going to go so fast. We only have 8 weeks together, and that is nowhere near enough. I don't have enough time with my students when I have the full 15 weeks of the semester with them. We're just going to be flying here. I do realize that life is complicated, so definitely talk to me. Negotiate with me if you have something that you know ahead of time is going to come up and you're going to need some wiggle room on an assignment. Submitted drafts will receive lower grades. I won't be able, unfortunately, to put comments on things that are turned in late. Smaller assignments is just whatever. We don't get those points. But overall, I just reserve the right to determine the specific deduction based on what it is and how late it is, if that makes sense. Okay, participation policy. This is key because we're online. I don't have an attendance policy because we don't meet in person, and I'm not requiring us to meet synchronously, which means all at the same time. So attendance is keeping up with the work, just surviving, right? Hitting those due dates. Of course, I want all of you to thrive, so hopefully you'll be above and beyond this. But if for any reason you miss a day or 3 or whatever, if you get off schedule somehow, that's on you to get caught up. You can definitely talk to me. Excuse me. You can talk to your tutor, talk to your advisor. We are all here to help you get back on track, okay? But I need you to do the work to get yourself back on track as well. So there's no excused absences, especially not for an online class where we can't take attendance anyway. So just know that you have to take responsibility for the material that you missed. That means watching any videos you haven't watched, making up any assignments, whether or not you're going to get full credit for them, doing any drafts, making sure you're talking to me, making sure you're talking to the tutor, etc. Okay, now a note about plagiarism. I'm sure that we're all vaguely familiar with what plagiarism is in my courses. Of course, it's use of somebody else's words that you're trying to pass off as your own, or use of your own words that you're trying to pass off as new for this situation. Either way, I don't expect that anyone's going to do this on purpose, because I think that you're all good people and have good intentions for learning in my class. If anything pops up that I notice, I will try to gently talk to you and correct you. If it happens more than once, I mean, we have policies in place to deal with that. But I don't expect that anyone will even feel like trying this, because that would totally negate your learning in this class. You guys are too smart for that. Okay, RESPECT. I didn't sing it. You're welcome. But just be prepared to give of yourself and to respect everyone else in this class. This should translate not just in our interpersonal interactions. Remember, tone is really hard to translate online. So in your interactions with other people, when you are responded to, just remember, tone is hard online, and try not to give offense and try not to take offense at each other. But also just know rude, mean, divisive, or dismissive attitudes toward each other, toward each other's writing, is not permitted at all. Absolutely no discrimination is permitted in my classroom, and I will very quickly bring the fucking hammer down on that shit, should I see it. Just making sure you're all awake. I know that I look very nice, and I am. I'm very kind. But I will not tolerate any rude, mean, dismissive, decisive. I will not tolerate any racist language in my class. Just heads up. All right. Support systems. Communicating with me. Definitely make sure you're emailing me, getting on that class discussion chat, talk to your tutors, set up your Skype appointments. One quick thing, just to know, I need about 24 hours for each email, or even just responding to like the chats and the discussions and stuff. There's a little template here for just a general polite email. There's other resources available to support you. The Writing Center, Student Disability Service, other resources including the Academic Success Center, CAPS, DOSO, Office of Military Veterans, just lots of ways that you guys can be supported. So that about does it for this deep dive of our syllabus. I'm going to pull it back to the full view and close out this video. Hi, everybody. So that about does it for the syllabus deep dive. And I just want to take a moment right now to pause. I want to congratulate all of you for watching this kind of lengthy video that walks through all of our course policies in detail. And just to throw this out there, for your chat check-in number 1, make sure that whatever you put in there as the food, and if you look at the assignment, you know what I'm talking about, also see if you can put an emoji of that food. That's the chat check-in prompt to throw in there for the videos. If you have any questions about the syllabus or any of the course policies that I've outlined here, please don't hesitate to shoot me an email, ask a question in the ask and answer discussion. We can definitely set up a Skype appointment or a Zoom appointment if that feels more comfortable for you as well. All right, so let's go forth.